it's Stephanie and welcome back to my channel. Today I have another book review and I'm going to be reviewing the Honey Don't List by Christina Lauren. This book came out yesterday, March 24th, and thank you so much to NetGalley for the advanced reader copy. I was so happy to be able to get this early so I could review it for you guys. So, the Honey Don't List follows Carrie Douglas, and she has worked for home remodeling and design gurus Melissa and Rusty Tripp for about 10 years. The Tripps have a new show and a book about to launch, and they are on the path to superstardom. However, they can't stand each other. Enter James McCann, who is an MIT graduate and engineering genius, who was originally hired as a structural engineer for the new show, and he actually ends up being kind of a personal assistant to Rusty Tripp. Both he and Carrie have to go on the book tour with the Tripps in order to keep them in line and keep the wheels from falling off the proverbial bus. However, neither of them is in a position to quit. Carrie actually gets paid pretty well, and she really needs the health insurance that the Tripps provide. And James has been promised a position that he has been working toward if he can just keep the couple on track to get to the renewal of season 2. While they are on their book tour along the West Coast, Carrie and James decide to work together to keep their boss's secrets hidden. They initially start off by not really liking each other, but as they are in close quarters and the book tour progresses, they grow closer and something may bloom out of there. Okay, I want to preface this by saying the Unhoneymooners and Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating were in my top books that I loved last year, and I gave both of those 5 stars, and I ended up reading the Unhoneymooners twice. And I really, really love Christina Lauren. Their writing is just phenomenal. This book, while I did love it, it was a little bit disappointing. I felt like it was knocked down just a tier compared to their other books that I've just loved. Just get like the negative things out of the way, and then we can end on a positive note. So, Melissa Tripp, or Melly, is very selfish and witchy and kind of has a two-faced persona. She very much likes to be in the limelight and wants to be in control of everything, and definitely takes advantage of the people around her, particularly Carrie. And without going into spoilers, she is definitely taking advantage of Carrie in a very, very big way, and being very manipulative in order to keep Carrie where she wants her. And Carrie has been with them since she was 16, so she doesn't know any other job or doesn't know how a good boss treats their employees. And then Rusty Tripp just comes across as this kind of good old boy guy who is just stuck and uses different vices as a way to cope with this situation he's in that he feels trapped. And while I can understand the spot he's in, I didn't really like them that much. And I know we're not supposed to like them, but I didn't find myself rooting for them to make it or even root for them to divorce. I just didn't care. Really just got on my nerves, but I do think that was the intent of the author, because they just the Melly and Rusty just hate each other. And they're in their own little world, and they just have no idea how they affect not only Carrie and James, but literally everyone around them. Their PR and marketing people are on call 24/7 because they're always fighting and they always need damage control to be done. And they don't know how to communicate without just yelling at each other. And they don't see that they're working Carrie and James 10 to 14 hours a day. So thought there's one scene at the end where everything kind of like comes to a head, as it usually does in a book. And I thought it was a little anticlimactic. Like, I think if there had been a hair more buildup and maybe a little more of the consequences afterward, that it would have felt more impactful. Also in this book, starting at the beginning, there are like transcripts between a detective and then all the characters in the book. And we have to kind of figure out what happened because they keep referencing this event that apparently went on with the trips. And I thought that was kind of unnecessary. I can see why Christina Lauren included it, but I could have done without it, to be honest. I didn't really feel like it added anything to the book. And I also wanted a little bit more build-up for the romance. Like, just a hair. I still really enjoyed it, but I wanted a little bit more time for them to get to know each other. That being said, I want to know if James McCann has a real-life brother, because he was just one of the best characters. I loved him so much. Even though he doesn't really like Carrie that much when they first meet, he comes across as a guy, he just wants to be a decent human being and wants to do the right thing and the ethical thing in the situation that happens. And then he starts like actually noticing Carrie and paying attention. And she's got this medical condition, and I can't remember the name, but basically the joints and the muscles in her hand aren't working properly. So she can write and all that, but if she does it for extended periods of time, her hands like cramp up and shake. And so she needs the health insurance so she can get Botox for her hands to keep them functioning properly. And he starts to notice that and just genuinely cares about her well-being and just wants her to be happy. And there's one scene where he massages her hands for her, just not even thinking about it, just being thoughtful. And it was the sweetest thing I read in this book. Obviously, in this book, it's a rom-com. There's going to be a romance. We all know that. So there's a scene where the two characters end up going to bed together. And it was the most genuinely sweet thing, the way that Christina Lauren did it. James was the perfect partner in this scene. He was very communicative and wanted to make sure every step of the way that Carrie was okay with everything and that she was happy and that he wasn't doing anything to make her uncomfortable, and he only wants to do what she's okay with. And he's very thoughtful and sweet, and I just love him so much. The way this romance is set up felt very realistic. I felt like the problem that always happens where the plot comes from, if that makes sense, was realistic and very well done. And even though this was kind of a whirlwind romance, it didn't feel fake or insta-lovey. Like, it just felt genuinely sweet and just a romance with two people who are just decent human beings and are just normal and they just want to be happy. And I was so satisfied with the way it ended. Again, realistically. So even though I was a little bit disappointed in certain aspects of this book, I really enjoyed it. I just binged it because I didn't want to put it down. I wanted to know what happened. I was so invested in Carrie and James. And as usual with Christina Lauren, there are funny one-liners and great romantic build-up and just very well-developed main characters in Carrie and James. So I do highly recommend this book, but I love it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's one that I would definitely reread in the future, and I just thought it was such a good time reading it and seeing where the story went. So have you read it? If so, what did you think of it? Or do you think you're going to read it now that you've heard my review? Let me know. And as always, if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.